The blood of my sister splattered against my fur as I felt her lifeline snap. The bond was weakening as more and more wolves were murdered. My husband, the alpha, was in the middle of it all, fighting the alpha of our enemy pack. My heart ached, not being able to go and help him. I clawed my opponent across the face and dashed into the big house. I quickly shifted to my human form and ran up the staircase. Grabbing a curtain to wrap around my nude figure, I opened the door to the first room and slammed the window open. "Mom, what's going on?" My eldest daughter, Daphne, asked worriedly. Everett and Amabelle sat up groggily. My 3 children were oblivious to the raging war downstairs. Daphne got past the wall I'd built to protect my thoughts, and she let out a sob. "Mom, no. I'm staying with you," she sniffed. "What's going on?" Amabelle, the youngest, wondered. "Is everything okay?" Everett looked worried. I grabbed a Sharpie and took my eldest daughter's hand. I scribbled down the address of my father and pushed my 3 angels to the window. Amabelle and Everett were confused while Daphne was begging me to come with them. "Go to this address. Don't come back here. Understand?" I took Daphne's head between my hands and looked her in the eye. She nodded numbly and I kissed the top of her head. I could feel her sobs shaking her as I held my daughter in my arms for the last time. I grabbed Amabelle and Everett in my arms and held the 3 of them close to me, willing myself not to cry. This was the last time I would see them, and vice versa. "Take care of each other," I cried and rushed them out the window. My children screamed when they saw the war and shifted into 3 brown wolves, dashing through the trees. Their father smiled when he saw them escape, and fought through to attack another enemy. "Peekaboo. Found you." A low voice boomed behind me, and the last thing I saw was my mate's eyes as he was too late to save me. The alpha, their father, my husband. His mossy green eyes locked into mine as the sharp teeth of the enemy pierced my neck, taking my life. My soul parted from my lifeless body and looked down upon the same wolf, taking the life of my beloved, who was more than willing to die after seeing me murdered. The oak pack was officially killed to extinction. Sunlight streaming through a window awakened me the next morning. I realized that Amabelle was lying next to me, her beautiful face resting on my solid bicep. She was wearing sweatpants and a thin cotton tank top. A sliver of skin was visible between the waistband of her sweats and the hem of her tank top. I brushed my thumb across it lightly, feeling her smooth, flawless skin beneath my finger. She sighed and snuggled closer to me. I know that from a human's perspective. Our relationship was moving extremely fast. The 2 of us met yesterday and were already sleeping together. This was the typical speed of a relationship for an alpha and his mate. Though, in fact, I'll probably have claimed Amabelle within a month. Werewolf bonds between mates were very strong. Within an hour of meeting their mate, wolves are in love. The bond between an alpha and his mate is even stronger. Within the few seconds we saw each other. We were unconditionally and irrevocably in love. Once I claim Amabelle, we'll be able to speak privately together using our mate bond. She'll also be a part of my pack and have access to the pack bond. Amabelle stirred and her chocolate brown eyes fluttered open. They flicked up to me, and a small smile appeared on her face. My mouth immediately curved up in response, and I leaned down to press my lips to hers. Our lips touched for a few seconds before she pulled back. Amabelle stroked my jaw with her thumb and rested her head on the pillow again. I breathed in the cinnamon vanilla. "What time is it?" she wondered. I glanced at her alarm clock. 6:30. It's so early." She curled into my side and buried her head in my chest. "Do you want me to stay with you or meet you at school?" I murmured to her. "Stay with me." A smile crept onto my face and I kissed her forehead. Okay. Go get dressed. I still have to shower and grab a shirt from my place. She yawned and sat up. Okay. I reluctantly let her go and get ready, leaning back against her headboard. I closed my eyes and listened to see if anyone else in her family was awake. Her brother wasn't at home. My guess was he was at work or with his mate. Amabelle's sister was asleep, and her grandparents were talking in low voices in their bedroom. The shower clicked off and the bathroom door opened. Amabelle had a towel wrapped around her nude figure and was sprinting to her closet. I grinned and she stuck her tongue out at me before an unwilling smile appeared. I wanted to claim her right then and there, but knew that now wasn't the time. She shut the closet door behind her and I could hear her rummaging through her clothes, trying to decide what to wear. I wondered why she took so much time choosing her outfit. My mate would look dazzling in anything. I decided that today, before school started, I would request to have my schedule changed so that Amabelle and I had the same classes at the same time. The secretary working was easy to convince, and if she wouldn't budge, I could use my alpha control to force her obedience. The closet door opened and I was stunned. She was beautiful. Amabelle was wearing a thin, flowery dress that gathered around her waist and flowed to her mid-thigh. A faux fur tan vest, and ankle-high wedge boots with brown laces. The dress hung on her body perfectly, showing off her curves in a way that was sexy but not slutty. She shot me a confused look when she realized I was staring at her in awe. And I was shocked. Did she really not notice how pretty she was? What? She asked, puzzled. I stood up and walked to her, wrapping my arms around her and pressed my forehead against hers. Amabelle's cool hands rested on my chest. You look beautiful, I murmured. She blushed and stood up on her tiptoes to kiss me. Our lips molded together perfectly and her lips curved up against mine, in a small smile. I'm not sure how long we stood there, but eventually we heard her grandmother making her way down the hall to Amabelle's room. I'll meet you outside, I whispered. She nodded and met her grandmother at the door as soon as I jumped out the window. Bye, grandmother, I called behind me. Make sure to get breakfast, sweetheart. I will. Using my werewolf senses, I followed the spicy, woodsy scent to my mate. He was leaning against a tree. My house is a few miles away. I'm pretty sure your brother took your truck, he said. Crap, I groaned. He looked thoughtful for a moment. I have an idea. Beau took off his pants and shifted into a large black wolf. His stormy gray eyes were the same and his fur was dark as a raven's, yet soft as silk. Beau's wolf form was massive, at least 80 pounds larger than the average werewolf. He motioned for me to climb on, and I groaned. Why can't I just shift too? I asked. He just shook his head and motioned for me to get on again. I sighed and obeyed him before his possessiveness won out, and he gave me that lecture about me being his. Honestly, I didn't mind him telling me that. I loved the fact that the alpha inside him was so possessive and protective of me. I climbed onto his back and he shot forward, like a bullet. My guess was we were traveling faster and faster by the millisecond. Most likely faster than a bullet. I leaned down closer to his back, so the wind wouldn't rip my head off. And in less than a minute, we were in front of a small house. The house was in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. The walls were made of stone, and with my sharp vision, I noticed that the windows were made of bulletproof glass. There was a ramp leading up from somewhere below the house, most likely the garage. The house was 2 floors tall and looked incredibly modern for this town. Heck, modern for any town. I climbed off of Beau's back and looked at the house while he shifted and put his jeans back on. He took my hand and led me to the front door. slipping a key out from behind a stone in the wall. I raised my eyebrows when I saw that there was a thick layer of solid metal behind the stone wall. "Do that many people hate you?" I grinned. He chuckled. "There's a stone wall. 2-inch metal. 2-inch concrete. 1-inch metal. Soundproofing. Then drywall." My jaw dropped and he smirked at it while skillfully turning the key in the lock and slipping it back behind the stone. He removed another stone to reveal a thumb scanner. He placed his thumb on the scanner and the scanner glowed green. He slid this stone back into place and the metal door slid open. Looking at the wall, you would never guess where the correct stones were. I thought the outside of the house was impressive. The inside blew my mind. "I'll give you the tour." He smirked, amused, at my expression. The walls were painted a clean white color and there was a shiny black wood floor. Overhead lights lit every room and beige leather furniture decorated the space. "Kitchen." He pointed to the corner of the room. The kitchen was located on a raised platform and looked like the type of thing you'd see on television. The counters were a black, white, and red granite, polished to perfection. There was a stainless steel oven, refrigerator, dishwasher, and sink. A bar separated the living room and kitchen. Living room. The beige couches were low to the floor and were arranged in an L shape in front of a glass coffee table. An 80 widescreen TV was hung on the wall. Beau pulled me up a metal winding staircase that led to just one huge bedroom. The walls were painted red and the flooring was identical to the one downstairs. There were 2 doors on opposite sides of the room, one leading to the bathroom and the other leading to the closet. Bedroom. In the middle of the room was a large king-sized bed. It was made of black leather and had fuzzy white blankets draped over the mattress. 4 fluffy pillows leaned against the headboard. Bathroom. He opened one of the doors to reveal a large bathroom. The tile was a silvery black and one wall was just a mirror. A long counter was against the wall and had 2 sinks with long, elegant faucets. The counter was a pearly white. In one corner of the bathroom there was a huge bathtub. It was a triangular shape and looked like a jacuzzi. The shower was around 6 feet long, stretching across one wall, and 5 feet wide. There were different knobs for temperature and buttons to push for the water control. Silver racks had fluffy white towels draped over them. "I don't think you want the tour of the closet. It's just a rack of clothes." He shrugged. "You live here." I breathed. The house looked like it cost billions of dollars. I couldn't imagine how Beau would get the money to afford all of this. "Yep. My parents paid for it and gave it to me for my 18th birthday." "Wow." He chuckled and picked me up, placing me underneath him on the huge bed. I sunk into it, the mattress feeling like clouds. Beau kissed my collarbone and slowly brushed his lips up to my mouth. I moaned and hung my arms loosely around his neck. He pressed his lips to mine and I kissed him back. Beau grinned when I bit down gently on his bottom lip and opened his mouth. He twisted his tongue with mine and moaned softly. I pulled back, panting. "You should probably get ready for school." "Do you still want to go to school?" Beau was breathing heavily too. "I can't have the teachers hating me just yet." He groaned and sat up, leaning off of me. I sat up too and finger-combed my hair, making sure it didn't have that I just made out look. Doing my absolute best to keep my eyes away from Beau's 8-pack. I readjusted my dress and stood up. "While you shower, I'm going to see what food you have." One side of my mouth quirked up. "You don't want to come in with me?" He raised one of his eyebrows playfully. "I'll pass this time." I teased and went downstairs. "You said this time. I'll remember next time." I could hear the shower starting as I opened different cabinets, seeing what Beau had. Typical male. He had hardly any food. Beau probably just ordered pizza or takeout for his meals instead of going grocery shopping. Grumbling, I settled for a Cliff Bar. I finished it in a few bites and decided to look over my history notes while waiting for Beau. I flopped down on one of the tall bar chairs and studied my notes. Failing my first test at Thunderview would not be a confidence booster. King John signed the Magna Carta in 1215. I muttered. A few seconds later, 2 muscular arms wrapped around my waist, and the spicy, woodsy scent reached my nose. I leaned back into his chest as he buried his face in my hair. "What are you doing?" he wondered. "Studying?" "Never mind." He grinned and finished the rest of my orange juice in a single gulp. I grinned and turned my head to face him. "How in the world do you plan on graduating?" "I'll use the bond to get answers from you." "What if I refuse to let you claim me until we graduate?" I said smugly. "I'm not worried about that. I'll have claimed you by then." He growled huskily. An involuntary shiver ran through my body and I frowned. "What if I refuse to give you the correct answers?" "I have that all figured out, too. If I don't graduate, I'll be at school the whole day while you're home alone. Isn't that a waste of time? Think of all the things we could do in our spare time if I graduated," he murmured in my ear. I pushed him away, cracking a smile. Beau shot me a wicked grin. He was wearing dark jeans, a dark green crew neck that hugged his defined muscles, and his leather jacket. "Come on. It's 7:15. He grabbed both our bags and headed down a set of stairs. "Where does this lead?" "Weapons, room, and garage." "Weapons room." "Do I look like the type of guy who would live without at least a silver-bulleted machine gun?" I gulped. "Have you ever had to use it?" "Several times. That's why this house is so secure." I shuddered and continued to follow him down the stairs. This must be underground. We walked into a large room. The space was split in half. A thick metal door was closed and locked. It probably led to the weapons room. In the garage, there was Beau's motorcycle. A Hummer, a sturdily built truck, and a white van. We climbed on the motorcycle and I wrapped my arms around him again. I held on tighter than last time, knowing how easy it was to fall off of this thing. I could feel Beau's 8-pack underneath his thin shirt. Beau pushed a button on the bike and the garage door slid open. He sped out, onto the ramp, and I could hear the thick, metal garage door slam shut behind us. I rested my head on his back and let the wind blow my hair behind me. The motorcycle wasn't as bad as I remembered. Beau and I had all the same classes, so he would sit next to me in each class. My mate made it incredibly hard to focus. The way he would play with my fingers to amuse himself or ask me millions of questions about myself. The two of us were sitting together in math. Beau fired question after question at me. Favorite ice cream flavor? I thought for a moment. Mint chip. Favorite color? It depends on my mood. Sometimes it's white. Other times it's orange. Favorite animal? Wolf. I grinned. What about you? You're my favorite animal. So, wolf. Not your shifted form. You. As in Amabelle Murdock. I know that you can become as feisty as a wolf. Oh, really? Like when... I challenged. In bed, he said smugly. And how would you know that? I raised my eyebrows teasingly. I'm going to learn that soon. Guaranteed. I snorted softly and tuned back into the lesson. Beau was fiddling around with my fingers, twining them with his, rubbing his thumb across them, stroking my palm. It was hard to focus. Very hard. Luckily, math was over. The bell rang and I swung my bag over my shoulder, feeling Beau's hand close around mine. We walked to the cafeteria together, Beau asking more questions. I answered them as truthfully as possible. When we got to the food line, Beau just got one tray and piled a ton of food on it. "You're eating all that?" I asked. "Of course not. Half is for you." "I can't eat half of that." "You're right. 1/4 is for you. The other 3/4 are for me." "Happy." I paid attention during math. He grinned. "Beau, that's 3rd grade math." I laughed. Damn. He paid for the food and held the tray in one hand easily, snaking one arm around my waist. He was so possessive. I followed him to the table his pack sits at and chewed my lip when I realized there was only one seat left. I was about to go grab another chair when Beau wrapped his arms around my waist and pulled me down onto his lap. There were 5 other people sitting at the table. I could tell that 2 pairs of mates were there and the other wolf wasn't mated yet. They all smiled warmly at me and introduced themselves. Amabelle, a petite blonde girl, introduced. Jet. Her auburn mate grinned at me. Demi, a black-haired girl, smiled. Names, Birch. Her mate said warmly. "Call me Xavier." "I mean it. Call me." A cute auburn boy winked. Obviously Jet's twin. Beau growled deeply, glowering at Xavier. I twined my fingers with his, calming him down slightly. He breathed in my scent to relax and his muscles became less tense. Amabelle. I smiled. Lunch was a fun event. Everyone joked around together, and I already felt welcome. I had just met the 5 and already considered them friends. Beau kept one arm around my waist the whole time and ate with one hand, which I found hilarious. It wasn't like somebody was going to rip me off his lap or I was going to fall off. I didn't complain, though, not minding his possessiveness. After school, I went over to Beau's house. We were cuddled up on the couch, both tired. Beau ordered pizza. "Do you want to stay here tonight?" he murmured. "Okay." I called my grandparents and told them that I was staying at somebody's house and would see them tomorrow. Of course, my grandfather somehow knew that I was staying with my mate. "I'll make a deal with you, Princess. You can stay at his house whenever you want as long as you bring him over for dinner sometime," my grandfather offered. I glanced at Beau, knowing that his sharp ears picked up the offer. He nodded, agreeing to the deal. "Okay. Deal." I said bye to my grandfather and yawned, curling back into Beau's side. Beau picked me up bridal style and carried me up the stairs, into his bedroom. When we got to the bed, he placed me in the middle and lay on top of me, leaning on his elbows so I wasn't crushed. Yet our bodies were pressed together. I arched my back and pressed my lips to his gently. As his hand reached under me and fiddled with the hem of my dress, I kicked off my boots and vest, and he did the same with his shoes and jacket. In one swift motion, Beau took my dress off. I was wearing a pair of red lacy lingerie underneath. I bit down on his lip and tugged off his shirt. He pulled his shirt off the rest of the way and tossed it to the side. I placed my hands on either side of his face and brought his lips down to mine. Our mouths crushed against each other with bruising force, but neither of us pulled back. Beau slipped his tongue inside my mouth and twisted it with mine. I moaned and wrapped my legs around his waist. His hands ran up and down my sides as mine traced his defined muscle and tangled in his hair. I bit down on his tongue as a no, when his hands fingered my bra clasp and started to tug my panties down. When he didn't listen and his wandering hands continued, I dug my nails in his back lightly, hard enough that he could feel it. but soft enough that it didn't sting. He pulled back, panting. His voice was husky. Why not? Our eyes locked. My brown ones with his stormy ones. He searched my eyes, as if the answer would be hidden in them. His eyes were darkened by lust and desire. And I knew that mine were too. I didn't say never. Just not yet. I murmured. Why? Now is as good a time as any. I know that you want me to claim you. He whispered. I know. I just don't want to. Yet. Just not right now. Okay. He was struggling against his alpha instincts. Not to claim me right now. Our lips met again. Our tongues twined together. And my fingers tangled in Beau's hair. We kissed again. Less desperately than before. When the doorbell rang, both of us almost had a heart attack. Beau growled and continued kissing me, choosing to ignore his visitor. I grumbled and slid out from underneath him, picking up his shirt from the ground. I put it on, relieved when the hem dropped to mid-thigh. Beau groaned and ran his fingers through his hair. Sighing, he went downstairs to answer the doorbell. I went downstairs and sat at a bar stool as Beau placed the pizza box on the kitchen counter and took out a slice. Not even bothering to use a plate. I sighed and walked around to the other side of the counter. Oh. Sorry. He mumbled through a full mouth. I smacked him lightly on the chest and reached up into a cabinet to grab a plate. It was a ceramic, glossy black, square-shaped plate. I slid a piece of pepperoni pizza onto it and Beau handed me a can of Diet Pepsi. We curled up on the couch and chewed our food in silence. After 6 pieces of pizza, Beau leaned back. So he was laying across the couch and rested his head on my lap. I subconsciously combed my fingers through his hair. We were both wrapped up in our own thoughts, only aware of each other and our thoughts. Around half an hour later, Beau looked up at me. When did you move here? He wondered. A few months ago. Why did you move? My heart rate increased, and my breaths were heavier. Thinking about that night freaked me out, and I had nightmares about it every single night. Actually, now that I thought about it, last night was the first peaceful night I'd had in almost a year. It was probably because Beau was with me. His stormy gray eyes still searched mine for an answer, frightening me. I didn't want anyone to know of my past. I wanted to keep it in the past and never look back upon it. To never repeat that night's events again. I just wanted to see my grandparents more often. I stuttered, avoiding making eye contact with Beau. You're a terrible liar. Love. What? Did you get out of jail? Make some enemies. Get spotted shifting. You can tell me. It's not that simple. A tear dropped from my eye, and I quickly wiped it away before Beau took notice. Of course. His observant eyes missed nothing. And he immediately sat up and pulled me into his arms. I curled up in his lap and buried my teary face in his chest. Dry sobs racked my body, and I wrapped my arms around him, making sure that he was still there. Beau felt like the only thing keeping me tethered to the earth. If either one of us let go, I would float up into the universe. Shh. It's okay. Everything's okay. He rocked me back and forth, whispering comforting words in my ears and kissing my cheeks, forehead, lips. The sobs slowly died down to small tears, which eventually became sniffles. I had my arms looped around Beau's neck and was sitting on his lap, leaning my head against his warm, solid chest. My mate's muscular arms were wrapped around me. Tell me when you're ready. I won't force you to. He kissed my forehead. If I knew that Amabelle was going to freak, I wouldn't have asked her the damn question. She was curled up in my lap, calming down. I felt only pain in my chest that whatever awful thing made my beautiful mate move here was so terrible that she broke down. She was mine. Nobody hurts my mate. Can we two to bed? She looked up at me. Her long lashes were wet and her cheeks were tear-stained. She looked so vulnerable right now that I wanted to hold her in my arms forever and keep her to myself. Amabelle was adorable and sexy at the same time in my shirt. The hem reached a few inches below her ass and the sleeves went past her elbows. Sure. I kissed her. I pulled her legs up so they wrapped around my waist and stood. Amabelle rested her head in the crook of my neck and linked her arms behind my neck. I headed up to my bedroom and carried her to the bed. Instead of spooning together like we did last night, Amabelle snuggled into my side, facing me, and I put my arms around her. She buried her head in my bare chest. I love you, she murmured. I love you too, more than anything. I opened my eyes the next morning to see Beau still asleep. He looked so peaceful in his sleep. Not at all like the ruthless, arrogant, fearless alpha I'd grown to know. A small smile crept onto my face, and I sat up. A muscular arm reached up and hooked around my waist, pulling me down onto a rock-solid chest. Ow. Why is your chest so hard? I grumbled. Pure muscle. I sighed. I rested my head on his chest and felt Beau's arms wrap around me. I closed my eyes and listened to the steady rhythm of his heart. Beau lazily and subconsciously rubbed his hand up and down my back. His eyes were still closed. What time is it? I murmured. I have no idea. Do you want to ditch? No way. I rolled my eyes. I bet I can change your mind, he said cockily, suddenly sounding more awake. Nope, I said stubbornly. All of a sudden, I was flipped over and Beau was smirking down at me. He leaned down and slowly started kissing up my neck, sucking softly and running his tongue along my heated skin. I held back a moan and he pressed his lips to mine. I kissed him back, linking my arms around his neck. He made a low sound deep in his chest and pulled me closer. Beau bit my bottom lip, asking for entrance. I smirked and kept my mouth closed. He growled wickedly and moved his hand up my shirt, caressing my skin. It went higher and higher, and slipped under my bra. I gasped and he darted his tongue in my mouth. Cheater. I could play dirty too. I wrapped my legs around his waist, pulling him closer. He growled and tried to tug my shirt off. I made no move to help him get my shirt off, irritating him. My shirt stayed on and my mate got frustrated. He bit my tongue lightly and pulled back, brushing his lips down my jaw. He nibbled on my earlobe, making a gasp escape my lips. Beau kissed and sucked at the side of my neck, trying to find my soft spot. He kissed the skin behind my ear and a tingle ran through my body. I moaned unwillingly and felt his lips curve up. Beau kissed the spot again, making my back arch, and whipped the shirt off. I glared at him, but all he did was kick his jeans off, so he was left in a pair of boxers. I realized my legs were still wrapped around his waist, and tried to remove them. His hands clamped around my ankles, and tightened my legs around his waist. God, why are you so crazy? I asked in between kisses. Don't you mean, why am I so crazy for you? I mean what I said. Our kisses were getting sloppier and more desperate. I had both my hands on either side of his face, keeping his lips to mine. Beau's hands were everywhere. On my hips, my back, my face, my stomach, my chest, my legs, my hair. I knew what his wolf wanted. His fingers were about to unclasp my bra. When I pulled back, he growled deep in his chest. Amabelle, do you remember what I told you the day we met? I gulped, recognizing it as a rhetorical question. I am your alpha and your mate. You are mine and only mine. And you won't tell me what I can or can't do to you. Stop treating me like some belonging. I know you're my mate, and I know that you're to be my alpha once we mate. But you can't tell me what I can or can't do. I burst. You are mine. Understand that, he growled. I wiggled out from underneath him and tugged his large shirt back on over my body. Beau growled again as I walked out of the room. I stormed downstairs and slammed the front door behind me on my way out. I started sprinting and heard the door slam again as Beau came after me. I shifted into a brown wolf with shocking green eyes and pushed myself as fast as I could go. Beau was right behind me, gaining every millisecond. A few miles later, a few seconds, I was in front of my house. I quickly shifted into my human form and jumped up to my window. Pulling myself into my room, I shut and locked the window behind me, not wanting to deal with Beau right now. In a matter of seconds, I heard a tapping on my window. I wrapped a towel around my nude figure and glared through the glass at my furious mate. Fuck off, I growled, knowing he could hear me. Amabelle, open the window. I told you to fuck off. What part of fuck off do you not understand? He gave me one last look before jumping to the ground and shifting into a big black wolf. My heart ached watching him sprint away, but I knew that this was better. My possessive mate needed a wake-up call. I wasn't a belonging. Tears ran down my cheeks as I watched his retreating figure, the black wolf creeping sullenly back into the woods. I angrily wiped the tears away. This was his fault. Why was I feeling so heartbroken? God. I'm starving. Xavier grabbed me and sprinted across the mall to Sparrow's Pizza. He ordered 10 pieces and sat with me at one of the mall tables. He'd been depressed for the past week, after my fight with Beau. So Xavier convinced me to help him find a gift for his mom. I knew that there was a completely different reason for this, but I didn't want to talk about it, or think about it. So, how are you and Beau? He asked nonchalantly, taking a huge bite of pizza. Xavier, just get to the point. He tossed his empty plate into the trash can. Seriously, Amabelle, you have no idea what's going on in that guy's head. Every time one of us goes to visit him, we leave with him threatening to chop our heads off. And he's dead serious every time. Pun intended. I twirled my straw. First off, that was a terrible pun. Second, I just can't do it. I have a heavy past, Xavier. I don't want Beau to take part of the load. Meaning me. And I don't want him to pity me. That's all I've been getting from people who know. So the whole possessive thing was just a cover-up to protect your feelings. I don't know. I slumped glumly in my seat. Amabelle, have you ever stopped to remember that you two were meant for each other? That's why you're mates. Beau's the only guy who can at least help with the load of your past. Just give him a chance. It's not that easy. Xavier. I sighed. The guy's a wreck. Amabelle, I know that within a few hours you will be too. That's why I told you to meet me here. I took a sip of the carbonated drink and ran my thumb along the side of the cup, causing the condensation to race down the side. I know, I said quietly. So you'll talk to him. Xavier's mood brightened. No. I slung my purse over my shoulder and tossed my drink into the trash. Walking away from Xavier, I heard him growl in frustration. Then follow me, easily catching up with his long strides. You're just going to be in pain, he warned. I know I will. Xavier. Please just leave me alone. I'll text you later. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. He muttered. Then walked back toward Sparrow's to order more pizza for himself. I chewed my bottom lip and walked out the mall and home. A light fall of rain washed over me, but quickly became a pouring shower. I started jogging, holding my purse above my head in a pitiful attempt to stay dry. My dark brown hair was glued to my face, drenched in rainwater. Finally, my house came into view. Nobody was home. My grandparents and siblings had decided to go to Vegas for the weekend. They'd offered to take me, but I insisted that I stay home. I knew that it was because I couldn't stand being that far away from Beau. But I was currently trying to convince myself that it was because I had to study for a non-existent test. After fumbling with the lock and key for a few minutes, it finally clicked open. I stumbled into the house and locked the door behind me. I was drenched in rainwater and panting slightly from running those few miles as a human. I dumped my purse onto the couch and took the stairs to my bedroom 2 at a time, longing to change my clothes. I dried off and threw on a pair of lacy black lingerie and a white tank top. I towel-dried my hair and tossed the towel into the laundry room once I considered my hair dry. I went into the kitchen and looked around, trying to find something to eat. I wasn't hungry, but I needed something to do. Grinning, I opened a bag of Skittles and popped a purple one into my mouth. Skittles were my guilty pleasure. Suddenly, an ache in my chest started up. Within a few seconds, my body was vibrating and became numb. I gasped and stumbled up the stairs into my bedroom, falling onto my bed just in time. My body shook with pain and my teeth chattered. A light sheen of sweat covered my skin, and I felt like I was burning. My body was engulfed in flames, and nothing I did, or could do, would extinguish them. I let out a small whimper before my hearing went, replaced by an everlasting buzz. It drove me crazy and gave me a pounding headache. Then I was an ice cube. I was frozen solid, shaking to try and break out of the ice covering my skin. The coldness slowly started to seep through my skin and freeze my blood. I shivered, trying to get rid of the cold. I screamed and clawed at the air, feeling as if I were drowning in my clothes. My whole body was numb and I couldn't feel anything. My tank top and lingerie were suffocating me, giving me the urge to rip them off. I was in such awful condition that I didn't even notice when my door was slammed open. I brought the bottle of vodka to my lips and took a long gulp, loving the burn as it slid down my throat. It was impossible for me to get drunk, but I could still feel the fiery effects of the alcohol. Every single part of me missed Amabelle. A week of staying away from her was almost physically impossible, as well as mentally. It had to chain myself to my bed on the second day, and had ordered a few pack members to get me the alcohol. An empty bottle of Jack Daniels was in my lap. I'd finished it a few seconds ago. I was about to take another sip of the vodka when my wolf growled and I nearly shifted. I quickly gained control and heard a piercing scream. It was a few miles away, but I could hear it as clearly as if the person screaming was in my bedroom with me. My blood went cold when I recognized the voice. Amabelle. Suddenly a fire started in my chest. I was consumed with one need, to claim my mate. I felt all my muscles tense, snapping the chains bound around me. A deep growl ripped from my chest, and I struggled against the urge to shift. Sweat poured down my face as I tried to control the desire. But the desire just intensified by the second. Then my head pounded and the need tripled impossibly. I was shaking with effort, my muscles bulging and tensing up. My teeth ground together and my hands were clenched into fists. I was holding my breath, not daring to move. I felt as if I were holding onto a vine, hanging above a raging river. The raging river got stronger and higher by the second, but the vine only grew weaker. I knew what was happening. and didn't want to give in to instinct and Mother Nature. Amabelle and I were experiencing the side effects of me not claiming her. Right now. She would be immobile, so it would be easier for me to claim her. This part of alpha werewolf instinct was created because sometimes alphas have defiant mates who refuse to mate. A small whimper coming from a few miles away made me lose it. My mate didn't have a chance of making it out unclaimed. As if the vine and river did exist. I growled as the vine snapped. I shifted into the huge black alpha wolf and let out a loud, long howl. It cut through the night air and set a few families on alert. In less than a second, I was sprinting through the woods. I dodged trees and leapt over fallen logs, traveling at an impossible speed. Never had I run this fast, but I couldn't focus on my newly found speed limits. Amabelle was the only thing I could think about. She would be mine within an hour. Her house came to view, and I jumped through an open window in her kitchen. Not bothering to shift yet. I slammed the window shut and locked all areas of entrance to her house, not wanting to be bothered while I was claiming her. I scaled the stairs in a single leap. Still in my wolf form, my wolf was going crazy. Amabelle was within a few feet of us. I slammed her door open with a loud bang to find her leaning against the wall, panting and clawing at her tank top. Her dark brown waves were mussed, a few strands glued to the side of her face. She was wearing lacy black lingerie and a white racerback tank top, not helping to stifle the desire. A light sheen of sweat covered her bronze skin, and her full, cherry-red lips were releasing small pants of air. I locked her door behind me and lunged for her, shifting to my human form in midair. My body slammed hers against the wall with a loud thud, causing a gasp to leave her lips. I knew that before I could properly claim her. She had to give in to me. My hands ripped the tank top off of her and I ran them down her sides, feeling her curves. I shook with suppressed desire, holding it back until she gave in. I let my lips plant butterfly kisses on her throat, occasionally sucking at her salty skin or nibbling at it. She moaned but remained still, as stubborn as ever. Frustrated, I sucked at a spot beneath her earlobe. She gasped, and I could tell that she was using all her control to remain still. I continued to suck at her soft spot but let my fingers explore her body, unashamed. They crept underneath her bra, making her lose all control. Her fingers bunched in my hair, pulling my face down to hers so our lips would meet. They met with a bruising force and a low growl ripped through my body. I let my hand wander, until it was underneath her thigh. I pulled her legs up to wrap around my waist, earning a barely audible groan. Our wolves were insane, uncontrollable and filled with lust. A shudder ran through Amabelle when my hand ran up her back, tracing her spine. Her hands were smoothing my jaw, feeling the stubble I'd gotten while chained to my bed. I bit down on her bottom lip, drawing blood. The sound that erupted from her chest was a half moan, half growl. My tongue explored her mouth and I almost jerked when her teeth closed around it. Not hard enough to draw blood as my bite did, but enough to cause pain. I smirked against her lips at my mate's competitiveness. I was right. She was feisty. I pulled her away from the wall, laying her down on the bed. I crawled on top of her and leaned enough so every part of us was pressed together. But I wasn't squashing her. We were both panting heavily, gasping for air that didn't reach our lungs while kissing. Our eyes were locked and we both knew what would happen next. "Don't resist me," I murmured, letting my hands wander. "I wasn't going to," she breathed. A wicked smile flashed across my face. "Good. Miss Murdock and Mr. Chandler, is there something you would like to share with the class?" The teacher shot us stern looks. Beau turned his gaze from me and smirked at the teacher. Not particularly. My eyes widened and I shot Beau a warning glance. He looked away smugly. crossing his arms over his chest. Stupid, arrogant alpha. Annoyed that he hadn't answered me, I sent him a mind message. What are you doing? I thought toward him. Uh-oh. Did Mr. Batted? Big and mighty screw up. Xavier joined in from his history class. I'm his alpha, he can't tell me what to do. Beau thought smugly. I knew this was about that whole alpha thing. I sense a little couples feud coming on. Rawr. Xavier chuckled internally. We're at school now. The other kids don't know that you're his alpha. I scolded. Well, the other kids can go screw themselves and die in a Beau started. Don't end that sentence. I warned. Aren't you two the cutest? Xavier gushed. I'm close to smacking you. I shot at Xavier. She has a really sore slap. Beau warned him. Sounds like you learned the hard way. Xavier mused. I did. It was not pleasant. But that night made up for it. Beau was shifting into guy mode with Xavier. What did I tell you about talking to other people about our sex life? I growled at my mate. I sifted through Beau's current thoughts and grumbled. They were filled with images from last night, the dark blue pair. A lacy red bra. Then me laying underneath him. The fact that any other wolf in the pack could see those images right now filled me with dread. Stupid perv of a mate. Sexy. One of the unmated pack males couldn't control his thoughts. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mate stiffen in his seat. His muscles were tense and his jaw was clenched. God. His wolf was way too possessive. That's what I get for having an alpha as my mate. Mr. Nallis. Chandler. Where are you going? The teacher frowned at Beau. Bathroom. My mate said curtly. Exiting the room, his muscles were rippling. I have a feeling that your clothes will be off within 5 minutes. Xavier thought to me, seeing the situation through my eyes. Why would you think that? I wondered. I saw the teacher stiffen. Then, as if he were being controlled, he started to speak. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. Beau had better not be using his alpha power to control our teacher. Miss Murdock? You are excused for the rest of the day. He choked out, raising my eyebrows. I shoved my textbooks inside my bag and strut out of class. All eyes were on me, and they were all filled with jealousy. I ran my fingers through my hair and walked through the deserted halls. I'm outside the entrance. Beau said through the mate bond. I can't believe you. I have no clue what you're talking about. That's called alpha power abuse. It's called using my resources wisely. I rolled my eyes and stepped out of the school. Beau was standing near the end of the stairs. His posture taut and rigid. Oh crap. He turned when he heard my footsteps, and I gulped. I could see his wolf through his eyes. This was not good. My wolf was sending me warning messages, telling me that unless I wanted any of the humans to see a huge 2-ton ass of a wolf on top of a white wolf half the size of it mating outside their school, I should run. So I did. I leapt over the staircase rail, landing at the side of the school. I could hear Beau sprinting after me, and pushed myself to go faster. My legs burned from running at such an inhuman speed in my human body. But there was no way I'd ruin this dress by shifting now. My feet were killing me, and I knew that I'd get blisters from this. Why did I choose to wear flats today? Why couldn't I have chosen Converse or Toms or something? Those would be so much easier to run in. The forest was a dozen yards away now. I just had to get into the trees. Then I'd be safe. Beau could do whatever he wanted without any humans seeing us. Growls ripping through his chest were audible, and I could tell that he was using all the control he had to make sure he didn't shift in plain sight. Urging myself to run faster, I begged my wolf to pick up the pace. She stubbornly responded that my legs refused to run any faster and that my human body was way too weak. The forest was now about 3 feet away. I dashed through the trees and breathed a sigh of relief. The trunks were close enough together that it would be hard to see us. not wanting to take any chances. I weaved further through the trees, ducking under logs and jumping over fallen branches. A rip and then a howl from behind me informed me that Beau Wolf had won out and that head shifted. Damn it. I was now a few miles into the forest and a mile and a half away from the school. Just as I ducked under a branch, I was knocked to the ground by a huge, heavy, black wolf. Beau Wolf was ebony and its fur was rough, yet soft. His stormy gray eyes were blazing with the need to claim me and show that pack member that I was his. Head better not mark me. He was made of pure muscle. Not that I was complaining. But 5 tons of pure muscle on top of me was not pleasant. His hot breath was on the back of my neck, and I could feel it as he ran his snout down my back, then ducked his head underneath my dress. I smacked the top of his head. Get out of my dress. Ill shift. Just get your 5-ton ass off of me. Beau let out a low growl. His alpha not happy about being ordered around, but got off of me nonetheless. I glared at him for growling at me, but tossed my backpack next to a large tree. I pulled my dress off over my head and flung it on top of my bag, kicking my flats off next to it. Turn around, I ordered him, those gray eyes never leaving my half-nude body. He let out a snort and simply sat, still watching me. I thought we already talked about this. I frowned. His wolf remained stubborn, sitting there with his eyes glued to my face. I stuck out my tongue when a low growl rippled through him, telling me to hurry up. Compromising slightly, I turned away from him to undress fully. Deeper growls rumbling told me that he wasn't happy that Id turned. As soon as Id tossed my bra and panties on top of my dress, I shifted into my wolf. I watched as Amabelle shifted into a medium-sized she-wolf. Her coat was silky and white, and glimmered with every movement she took. My mate's chocolate brown doe eyes were still her own. I knew that my gray eyes were probably my wolf's, so I concentrated and shifted them so they were my own. The gorgeous she-wolf in front of me gave a nod of approval when she saw my eyes. It amazed me that simply looking at Amabelle could calm me down. I slowly stalked toward her, my tail flicking back and forth excitedly. I caught the mischievous look in her eyes right before she took off. Weaving through the foliage, I growled in response and chased after her. My wolf was rejoicing we were with our mate. I was in my wolf form, and we were running at full speed. My mate was the only one I could run at full speed with, only she could keep up with my impossible speeds. Then I remembered that douche who was sifting through my mind as I thought about last night. He had hell coming for him. As soon as Amabelle and I were done, I would most likely kick him out of the pack, leaving him a rogue, and give him a scar to remind him that head upset the wrong alpha. Nobody was allowed to see my girl like that except for me. She was mine. I pounced, landing on top of her. Wed landed on a bed of daisies. It would do just perfectly. My wolf guided my snout up her spine, then followed her jawbone down to right below her snout. Her wolf purred and mine vibrated with suppressed growls. I was about to flip her over and claim her, but she wiggled out from underneath me. A snarl ripped from my muzzle as she used her tail to flick my legs, leaving me laying on the ground. Amabelle cuddled up against me and rested her muzzle on her paw, informing me that she just wanted to sleep and that I could claim her later. Letting out a cross between a huff and a sigh, I sprawled on top of her. My paw hung across her back and I rested my head in the crook of her neck. Well, pick this up tonight, I thought smugly. Tonight you're having dinner with my family. That's tonight. My eyes jerked open. Just go to sleep. They'll love you. I dressed in a strapless white dress and matching white stilettos. The dress flowed down to around my knee, and I gained about an inch from the heels. My dark brown locks flowed freely and shaded part of my face. I never bothered to wear makeup, but Id ran my tongue along my lips, making them glisten. Daphne came running into my room, grinning like a maniac. My older sister was beautiful. I knew that I said this a lot, but it was true. Comparing myself to her was like comparing the ugly duckling to the elegant swan. Daphne's silky brown hair cascaded down her back, and she was wearing a red dress that hugged her curvaceous figure and had a stooping neckline. The sleeves ran to her elbows and the hem reached her knees. She had on a bit of makeup, but it was natural. Oh my God. Belle. Why didn't I know that you have a mate? I should have known that very second you two looked at each other and you were like... She dropped her voice to a purr. Hey. Sexy. Wanna go a few rounds? I should have been there. She pulled me into a huge hug and took a deep breath. Exhausted from her small rant. Really? Daph. Wanna go a few rounds? I shook my head affectionately. Then Everett came dashing into my room. His jaw dropped and his eyes widened. He was handsome too, another Murdock swan. My brother had shaggy golden brown hair, emeralds for eyes, and sharp features. He was muscular and tall, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. Belle. Why am I only finding out now by listening to our pea-sized brain of a sister? That you have a mate. I should have been there that very second. He burst. Rhett. You would have interrogated him and scared him. I sighed. Of course I would have. He sniffed. You're my baby sister. She's a young woman. Rhett. Daph protested, gesturing to me. She's 18. A legal adult. Still my baby sister. Stop being such an ass face. Daphne turned to me. Tell me all about him. Everett grumbled but crossed his arms over my chest and flopped down on my bed. Secretly wanting to hear about his future brother-in-law. I don't see why he couldn't just admit that he was partially interested in my mate. Well, his name is Beau. He's the alpha of the pack here. He's breathtakingly attractive. I started. Alpha. Daphne gasped. Breathtakingly attractive. Everett said at the same time as Daphne. Yes and yes. I glanced in my mirror and readjusted my hair. Daphne's eyes were sparkling, as if she were already planning our wedding down to the very last detail. Everett was mumbling unintelligible things to himself. All I caught was baby sister. Breathtakingly attractive. Stupid douche. And have to make sure he deserves Belle. I knew that my older brother meant well, but he was just too protective sometimes. Everett took a whiff of the air and grumbled. I can freaking smell him on you. Belle. I shrugged and smiled. The fact that he could smell Beau on me formed warm, fuzzy feelings inside. I'm not sure why, but it did. He had such a unique scent, it was like fresh soil mixed with a minty, peppery fragrance. It doesn't sound like it smells very good, but it was intoxicating enough to make my mouth water. So, has he claimed you yet? Daphne asked, pretending to look indifferent. I glanced at Everett and a red tinge spread over my cheeks. Holy fuck, he has. My brother jumped off the bed. He stole your freaking innocence. When? I'm going to murder that god. Calm down. Rhett. I shoved him back down onto the bed. He only did it because the side effects came and I was in pain. You should be thanking him. Not planning his funeral. But, he started. I'm thinking about a yellow-themed wedding. Daphne mentioned. Both Everett and I gave her an "Are you freaking kidding me?" Look. She slumped down under our gazes and raised her eyebrows. Finally. She crossed her arms over her chest and huffed. What? I like planning weddings. She defended herself. Daph. We met like a month and a half ago. Our wedding won't be for a while. I frowned. And there's also the possibility that they won't get married. Everett added. Oh. That possibility doesn't exist. I argued. Everett scowled and flopped down on my bed. He glared at his watch, and I found myself actually pitying the poor watch. My older brother had a frightening stink eye. I often melted beneath the smoldering look. He will be late in 5, 4, 3, 2. He counted down, amusing himself by the thought of Beau being late. Right as Everett said 1, the doorbell rang and I shot him a smirk. I took the stairs 2 at a time and dashed for the door. Calling ill, get it? To my grandparents. I could see Beau's silhouette behind the stained glass. I opened the door to reveal a nervous-looking Beau. He was wearing dark levis, an icy blue button-down long-sleeve dress shirt, and nice shoes. His dark hair had a wind-blown look and fell over his face perfectly, making me want to reach out and brush it to the side. Beau's lips formed my favorite smile when he saw that I was the one who answered the door. You look great. His eyes twinkled. Totally sexy. I don't think your brother would approve of me saying that out loud, though. He used the mate bond. Thanks, you two. I grinned. I could drag you up to my bedroom, but I don't think Everett would approve of that either. I saw my mate's lips curve into a mischievous grin, and his eyes flashed wickedly. I didn't even bother sifting through his thoughts, his eyes showed it all. Oh. You must be Beau. My grandmother came shuffling out of the kitchen, beaming. Amabelle's told us all about you. A faint blush spread over my cheeks, way to embarrass me. Grandma. Beau raised his eyebrows and chuckled. Come inside. Dear. Why were you letting him stand outside this whole time? My grandmother scolded me affectionately. Beau stepped inside. I'm fine. Mrs. Adelstandsted. Murdock. What a gentleman. Please. Call me Betty. My grandmother gave me a subtle thumbs up, signaling that she approved of Beau. Hare's the boy that has my little princess daydreaming over her bowl of cereal. My grandfather wiped his hands off on a dish towel he was holding. Call me Archie. He and Beau shook hands. I'm Beau. My mate introduced. Glad I rank higher than a bowl of cereal. Beau teased. A Cheerio can't kiss. You only keep me around for my kisses. I'm hurt. He feigned hurt. And for your 8-pack. You're obsessed with my abs. They're sexy. I internally shrugged. From now on, I'm going to be obsessed with your legs. Why don't we continue our discussion over dinner? My grandfather suggested. Great idea. My grandmother rushed into the kitchen. So, Beau, I hear that you're the alpha of the pack. My grandfather started. That's pretty impressive considering you're 18. Thank you. Beau was exceptionally polite. It warmed my heart that he was trying so hard to make a good impression on my family. How many past girlfriends have you had? Everett cut in. Beau's eyebrows raised. None, actually. And why is that? I shot my older brother a warning look, which he ignored. I wished that Eid locked Everett up in his room or gagged him until Beau was gone. He was being way too protective over me. Until now, I haven't really found someone that I wanted to be with. Beau replied smoothly, yet his voice was filled with honesty. I could have sworn that Daphne shot me a sly wink from across the table. She definitely approved of Beau and kept whispering to me about how cute of a couple we were. She nearly fainted when we twined our fingers together underneath the table. It kept making me blush. So you have high standards. I don't have standards. Then, he started. The food is really good. Don't you agree? I turned to Beau. It's delicious. I could see the relief clearly in his stormy eyes when they locked with mine. Everett's interrogation was over for now. I'm glad you like it. My grandmother beamed. It's my secret recipe. I don't think there's a single person in existence who wouldn't like your food. Bets. My grandfather took a bite of the steak to emphasize his point. It's true, I think this is the best steak I've ever eaten. Beau smiled. Thank you, dear. I'm glad you like it. My grandmother shot me a look that said he's a keeper. I took a sip of my water and failed to suppress a smile. My family loved Beau. Everett was still a bit protective and needed to complete the interrogation. But everyone else was happy with my mate. My grandmother thought he was as sweet as honey. Daphne was planning our wedding inside that strange head of hers. And my grandfather was just delighted that Beau could make me happy like this. I hadn't been in such an honestly good mood for a few months since the incident. That night seemed to have buried all of my happiness deep down in the dirt. It seemed as if Beau was slowly digging up the bubbly, pleasant feelings and memories. He could make me smile simply by being present. Until the night Id met my dark god. I hadn't had a peaceful night of sleep. My family had started to fear that I was an insomniac. Then, that night, I actually slept through the nightmares. Id woken up the next morning in my mate's arms and feeling better than I had in ages. What do you plan on getting a career in when you graduate from college? That is, if you plan on going to college. Everett started again. I plan on taking over my father's business. Is it a successful one? It's a billionaire business. I could tell that Everett wasn't expecting that because he looked up and subtly gulped. So, you plan on going to college? Yes. Belle, can you help me with the dishes? Daphne called. Sure. I stood up and gave Beau a small hand squeeze before letting go and walking out of the dining room. Don't leave me alone with him. Beau begged. Just keep on doing what you're doing. Rhett's running out of things to criticize. I walked into the kitchen to see that the dishes were already sparkling and resting in the dish rack. Daphne was grinning and her eyes were sparkling. She didn't want help with the dishes. She wanted to talk about Beau. Typical Daph. Holy crap. You guys are the cutest couple ever. And he's really into you, I can tell. Daphne was practically jumping up and down. Let me guess. You've already planned our wedding and funeral. Still working on your baby anniversary. She winked. I giggled. You're ridiculous. You know that. I'm just happy to see you happy. Belle. You haven't been the same since that night. I started to protest, but she cut me off. Don't think I haven't noticed. You're my younger sister. You put on a strong face, Belle. But I know that it's still killing you. Just be happy with Beau. Okay? You deserve it. I am happy. Daphne smiled sadly. You won't be fully happy until you tell him the truth. Belle. Daph. I can't do that. He shouldn't have to carry the burden of my heavy past. He doesn't deserve that. Heck. I don't even deserve him. I don't know what I did right in my past life to deserve this. But I'm thankful that I did. Beau came into the kitchen looking slightly thoughtful, but also a bit squeamish from Everett's questions and accusations. I felt awful for leaving him with my older brother, but it was either get interrogated now or later. It would have only gotten worse if he continued avoiding Everett's questions. So I made sure that my brother got through with them now. Want to come over to my place? He asked. Sure. Daph. I'm going to go with Beau. I held back a blush. Okay, I'll tell grandmother and grandfather that you guys left. Thanks, Daphne. Beau smiled. Anything for my baby sister and her boyfriend. I groaned and dragged Beau out of the kitchen. My family could be so humiliating sometimes. Beau was chuckling softly as I pulled him out the front door. We got outside and I frowned. His motorcycle was nowhere in sight. Where's your motorcycle? At home. I ran here. He shrugged. In your human form. Yeah, it's only a few miles. I can't run in heels. I scowled at my white stilettos. Don't worry. He scooped me up in his arms. I've got you. I feel like a damsel in distress. Beau grinned and started sprinting. We cut through the air so quickly that tears came to my eyes. I buried my face in my mate's chest, breathing in his mouth-watering scent. His shirt was crisp and had the faint scent of his skin. The only sound audible was the small crunch every time Beau's feet touched the forest floor. That only happened every few seconds because his strides were long and each leap was packed with force. He was impossibly strong. He and his wolf were both pure muscle. His heart rate was normal, used to the few-mile runs. After about half a minute, it sped up slightly because it wasn't used to having my weight on top of his. It was like a double workout for him. As soon as we got to his house, Beau scanned his thumb and unlocked the door. sliding the stones back into place again. I kept my head tucked in the crook of his arm, too comfortable to move. I could hear Beau locking the door. Then his footsteps as he ascended the stairs. My mate put me down on top of his bed and started to unbutton his shirt. Yawning, I pulled my dress off and tossed it to the ground. I kicked my stilettos off too, and flicked the covers back. Climbing into his bed, a sigh left my lips as I sank into the mattress, and I heard Beau slow chuckle. He stripped down to his boxers and crawled under the blankets next to me. I twisted around so that I was facing him and rested my head on his bicep, wrapping my arms around his waist from the side. Beau pulled me closer and stroked the small of my back. "Your brother is ruthless," he groaned. "Rhett is way too protective." I agreed. Beau seemed to be in deep thought. He twisted a lock of my hair around one of his fingers and stroked the palm of my hand, the one wrapped around his waist. His stormy gray eyes seemed to stare off into space. In their own little world. "Do you think they like me?" he wondered. "Are you serious?" "They love you," I replied honestly. "You're not lying, are you?" I propped myself up on my elbow so I was looking down at him. "I promise." I leaned down and brushed my lips across his, keeping the kiss short yet sweet. It was these kisses that we shared that usually meant more than our make-out sessions or our hot and heavy ones. Cuddling up into him again. I smiled to myself. Beau stroked my bare skin with his thumb as we both slowly drifted off into sleep. "You're ruining the flavor." Amabelle burst. "But it tastes better like this," I protested, sprinkling powdered sugar over the food. "You drowned your waffle in the syrup. That's like eating syrup soup with tiny pieces of waffle in it. It's supposed to be waffle soup with tiny bits of syrup." She paused and frowned, rethinking what she just said. "Wait, I meant it's supposed to be a super light coat of syrup over the waffle. Or something like that. You know what I mean." While she was ranting on and on about putting too much syrup on my waffles, I secretly took the bottle of maple syrup and drenched the golden brown patty on her plate. I would get hell for this, but it was definitely going to be worth it. After her plate looked like a plate of gooey soup. I stealthily reached over and put the bottle of syrup back on the counter where Amabelle placed it. "But look at your waffle." I gestured toward her syrup-soaked waffle. Her jaw dropped and her eyes widened. I was biting the inside of my lip extremely hard just to keep from laughing. My mate looked so confused. Her mouth kept opening to say something, then closing again. She looked slightly like a fish. "What?" She glanced between the syrup bottle. Her plate. Then her eyes landed on me accusingly. "You drowned my waffle." I raised my hands up in a surrender position. "You have absolutely no proof." She smirked and pointed to a small sprinkle of powdered sugar on the side of the plate. Then at the bottle with a bit of powdered sugar on the handle. And finally to my fingers. They were tinted white with the powdered sugar. "Fuck," I muttered. "You owe me a waffle." She crossed her arms over her chest and pouted, looking unbelievably cute in the process. "Deal. Can I eat your waffle too?" "Knock yourself out." She pushed her plate toward me. I leaned over and kissed her on the cheek, causing her to squeal and yelp. "Your lips are all sticky." She squirmed. "Can you help me clean them?" I gave her a cheeky smile that I knew she loved and couldn't resist, and leaned over to wrap my arms around her waist. Amabelle just jutted her bottom lip out in an adorable pout and scowled at her waffles, doing all that she could not to look at my face. I pulled her onto my lap and fingered the hem of my large shirt she was wearing, brushing my thumbs across her thigh. I loved the feel of Amabelle's skin. It was soft, smooth, and warm. "Please, baby." I twisted her around so she was straddling me. Her chocolate brown eyes flickered down to my lips, and she groaned slightly, knowing that she'd lost. The edges of my lips quirked up, and I held her against me by her hips. Amabelle leaned forward and cupped my face in her gentle hands, putting her lips a breath away from mine. My wolf purred and growled when I felt her warm tongue glide over my lips, sweeping over the sweet syrup. When I couldn't help it anymore, I pulled her more tightly against me and pressed my lips to hers. I felt my mate smile knowingly against my mouth, but she kissed me back. I twined my tongue with hers and glided over her tongue, tasting the sweetness. Amabelle's lips were like heaven. They were full, moist, and supple. I found myself always hungry for more of her kisses. My mate tasted like all good things in existence, combined, as if she were made specially for me. Don't even get me started on her scent. It was intoxicating, always making me want more and always tempting me, teasing and drawing me in. She moaned softly when my hands skimmed down her sides. Her body was perfectly chiseled, like a Greek goddess. Whenever we got close like this, our bodies seemed to mold together, as if they were created for the other. Every line of our figures were pressed together, alerting my friend downstairs. "Do you still want to eat breakfast?" Amabelle asked between kisses. "I have something else in mind." I was breathless, but couldn't pull back. "So do I." She wrapped her legs more tightly around my waist, bringing us closer together. And the fact that only a small lace panty covered her lower body intrigued me and turned me on. I held her against me and stood up, staggering out of the kitchen and up the stairs. Amabelle, knowing I was breathless, skimmed her lips down my jawbone and rested her chin on my shoulder. I took deep breaths, trying to regain my regular heartbeat. Both our heartbeats had accelerated, and I grinned when I felt that Amabelle's heart was racing as fast as mine. Her lips brushed the side of my neck. Then I felt her freeze and tense up. A small gasp was audible. "What is it?" I murmured. "No," she whispered, her voice shaky and cracking slightly. "Baby, what is it? Did I hurt you?" I was starting to worry. How did they find Emmy? I was really starting to worry. Frowning, I looked around. Amabelle must have seen something outside the window. "Wait, somebody found her!" What the hell was going on? I carried her upstairs to my bedroom and locked the door behind me. Seating her on my bed, she sat cross-legged and hugged on of my pillows to her chest. "Baby, what's going on? Who found you?" I crawled over to her on the bed and hugged her to my chest. "They're not supposed to be here." Tears were pouring down her beautiful face, which had paled immensely. "Who's not supposed to be here?" "Beau. I'm scared." Her voice was cracking, and I watched one of her salty tears catch at the edge of her shaky lips. Amabelle clutched the front of my shirt, holding me closer to her. She was crying silently. I could feel her body shaking and felt the wet tears drip onto my shirt. What had my mate so frightened? I wrapped my arms around her waist and held her to me, letting her break down in my arms. "Shh. Don't worry." I wiped her tears away with my thumb, brushing it across her cheeks. "Be Beau. You don't understand. He wasn't supposed to find me." She pulled back and met my eyes. I got choked up at the sight of my mate. Her eyes were red, and her lashes were clumped together and wet from her tears. Amabelle's rosy cheeks were pale and tear-stained. How had my glowing goddess turned into a broken girl in less than a minute? I would do anything to help her and make things better. "Amabelle," I spoke gently. "Tell me what's wrong. I want to help." A few more tears trickled down her cheeks. "I can't. I have a heavy past." "Beau, you don't understand." Her voice came out as barely a whisper. "I can't put part of the burden on you. Baby, just tell me." I hated seeing her like this. I saw him. I was about to ask her what she was talking about, but she paled suddenly, then lost consciousness. "Thanks for coming. I didn't really know who else to call." I rubbed the back of my neck uncomfortably. "Don't worry about it. I was serious when I said anything for you two." Daphne brushed a few stray hairs off of Amabelle's forehead. So why is my little sister unconscious? I have no idea. We were just, doing stuff. Then she saw something outside and started freaking out. She was talking about these people who weren't supposed to find you guys. Then she started mumbling about some guy who wasn't supposed to find her. She said she saw him. Daphne's eyes widened and her lips parted in a gasp. They weren't supposed to find us. How did they find us? You sound exactly like her. I grumbled. Beau, you have to understand that my siblings and I have a really heavy past. For some reason, Amabelle doesn't want to tell anybody. She thinks it will be a burden on them if she talks about it. My younger sister puts up a believable wall and a strong exterior. But she's breaking down inside. I contemplated this. How had I not known and realized that Amabelle was hiding something from me? What kind of a mate was I if I didn't help her or know what was wrong? What happened? I asked after a while. Daphne took a deep breath before meeting my eyes. Have you heard of the Oak Pack? I'm pretty sure that everyone has. A few months ago, the Oak Pack had been slaughtered in cold blood. The alpha of the Spruce Pack had wanted the alpha's youngest daughter as his mate. But the Oak Pack alpha refused. Furious that he had been denied, the Spruce alpha attacked the Oak Pack and murdered every single member. Yeah, I replied. Daphne gulped and looked down at Amabelle before answering. The Oak Pack alpha was our father. We barely managed to escape that night. My jaw dropped and I felt my eyes widen. What? Amabelle refused to mate with the Spruce Pack alpha, so they attacked us. He made sure that Amabelle escaped so she could still mate with him. My blood boiled at the thought of any other male mating with Amabelle. She was mine and only I could touch her like that. Only I could kiss her like that. Only I could love her like that. If any other person even thought of doing those things to my mate, I would make sure that they died a horrible, painful death. I growled a deep, low, furious growl, causing my mate to stir. Amabelle's eyes fluttered open, her wolf sensing my pure, fiery anger. My eyes saw red and my jaw was clenched. Every one of my muscles was tense and rippling. My body shook from all the anger I was experiencing. I needed to claim Amabelle right now. Only that would calm me down. God. Alphas are so possessive. Daphne rolled her eyes. It'll be at my house. There is absolutely no way I am staying for this. I don't want to find out if my sister is a moaner or a screamer. I clenched the side of the bed and remained frozen and tense, waiting until Daphne left the house before claiming Amabelle. Growls and snarls were ripping from my chest and I was shaking from the amount of control necessary to hold myself back. She sat up and sifted through my mind, figuring out what was going on, as Daphne closed and locked the front door behind her. As soon as it was closed, I lunged for my mate. Nothing could stop me. Beau, she gasped. You are mine. I whispered into her neck, pulling her shirt off actually. It was my shirt. I know I am. She breathed. I'm guessing that Daph told you about my past. Amabelle could probably sense my anger, jealousy, and possessiveness rolling off of me in waves. She lay beneath me, willing, knowing that this was the only way it'd calm down. My fingers brushed the curves underneath her bra, then ran down her body. They skimmed her flawless skin and made her pant. I parted her legs and stroked the inside of her thighs. Slowly moving higher, Amabelle moaned, shudders racking her body. Only I can touch you like this. I nibbled the raw, unexplored flesh of her inner thigh, then soothed it with my tongue. Only I can make you feel like this. Beau, please, she whimpered, her hands clenching the blankets tightly, as if it kept her anchored to earth. I planted hot, lingering kisses from her knees, up and in her thighs, up her flat stomach, at the curve of her breast, up her shoulder, then in toward her collarbone. She whimpered with desire and lust. panting slightly. I took her collarbone between my teeth and nibbled on it, making her groan. Only I can make you moan like that. I ran my fingers down her body again, and was rewarded with louder moans. Only I can make you moan so loudly. Beau, she pleaded. Who do you belong to? Amabelle. I ran my tongue down her neck. You, she breathed, her heartbeat going wild. Who do you belong to? You, she cried. Good. Amabelle crushed her lips to mine desperately and wrapped her legs around my waist. I held her closer and ran my tongue over her lips. She tugged at my shirt and I arched my back to help her. Once my shirt was off, I could feel almost every line of our upper bodies against each other. Amabelle's bra was still on, but I was satisfied for now with the amount of exposed skin. I picked her up and lay her down in the middle of the bed before putting my hands on either side of her head. Our legs were tangled together, but I had myself propped up so there was about a foot of space between our upper bodies. Not being able to help myself, I slammed my lips down on top of hers with a bruising pressure. Her shaky fingers fumbled with the button on my jeans. Once the button was undone, she pushed them off of me and left them laying on top of our shirts in a heap on the floor. I kissed her again and again, each kiss becoming more desperate, more rough, more intense, and more breathless. Amabelle's fingertips skimmed up my back, before tangling in my hair and massaging my scalp. I groaned and grasped her hips with a bruising pressure. She gasped, but didn't object. I lined her hips with mine and ground against her, receiving a loud moan. You belong to me. Amabelle Murdock, I murmured. In response, my mate clenched her hands into fists, weaving them into the blankets we were lying on. Her chest was heaving up and down and her eyes were closed. I kissed her shoulders, moving up toward her lips. Her throat felt so raw and innocent beneath my lips. I unclasped her bra and tossed it over the side of the bed. This earned me a gasp and spread a satisfied smirk across my face. My fingers stroked her bare back, as if it were as necessary as breathing. That alpha won't dare touch you, I whispered coldly. Amabelle's eyes jerked open. She knew what I was going to do. Before she could say anything, I took a bit of flesh at her chest between my teeth. I bit down extremely hard, earning a blood-curdling scream, then a moan as the pleasure of my mark flowed into her. My mark drew blood, which I licked off. Amabelle's moans increased and her legs tightened around my waist. I soothed the mark with my tongue, and when my saliva mixed with her blood, it formed the pearl-white mark that only an alpha could make on his mate. You're mine, I growled, before claiming her. Station a few guys around my house. Amabelle and I will stay here for the whole day. Conduct a sweep throughout our territory. Question and/or kill any rogue or non-pack member you come across. There is no room for error here. Zav, came the low, murmuring voice of my mate. My eyes fluttered open and I took in my surroundings, not remembering much from the night before. I was tangled into my mate, laying in a mass of fluffy blankets and feathered pillows. Beau's arm was around me and the other held his phone, which he was softly muttering into so as not to wake me up. A thin red blanket was pulled over the two of us, blocking the chilly air. Memories came flooding back, seeing the Spruce Alpha, fainting, waking up to see Beau furious and Daphne smirking, then Beau claiming me once again. I sat up slightly and propped myself up on my elbow. The blanket dropped and I quickly grabbed it, holding it to my chest. I felt Beau's gaze on me as I ran my fingers through my mussed hair, working out the knots. Call me if you guys get anything, Beau ordered before clicking his phone off and tossing it to the other side of the bed. A warm, muscled hand wrapped around my waist and pulled me against a solid chest. My breaths came out softly yet evenly as I linked my arms loosely around my mate. His lips pressed a light kiss on my forehead before slowly gliding down and finding my mouth. Our kiss was nothing like last night's desperate ones, This kiss lasted for a few seconds before I pulled back and opened my eyes again. Beau's stormy gray orbs held concern, frustration, and just a bit of leftover anger, showing how furious he'd been when he learned about my past. Claiming me had only calmed him down slightly. He'd be extra protective and possessive today. "Are you okay?" he murmured against my skin. "I'm fine." It was a slight lie. "What about you?" "Of course I'm all right. Why wouldn't I be?" "I can still see the anger in your eyes," I said softly, brushing my fingers down his jaw. "Don't lie to me." He groaned and leaned back against the pillows, pulling me down on top of him. "Of course you'd be worrying about me at a time like this." My fingertips traced the lines on his chest. Something I knew calmed him down. "I've never seen you so angry." "I don't think I've ever been that angry." His hands subconsciously stroked my bare back. "I won't let him have you. Baby. I don't know what it'd do if I ever lost you." His voice had become a hoarse whisper. "It'd die instead of mating with someone else." I breathed honestly. His eyes flickered to mine. "Don't say that. I'd rather you mate with someone else than die. I couldn't handle your death. I'd die too." Beau rolled over, so I was underneath him and brushed his fingers across my bottom lip. My hands moved up to cup his face, and I smoothed my thumb over his cheekbones before pulling his face down toward mine. Our lips met and moved in sync, keeping rhythm with the other set. My lips parted when his tongue brushed my lip, and he traced his tongue on the inside of my teeth. I wrapped my legs around his waist, pulling him down closer to me so every line of us was pressed together. Beau's wolf purred and he kissed me harder. I gasped as his hands, unashamed and confident, stroked every inch of my bare skin, leaving me tingling and wanting needing more. Unfortunately, I knew that we couldn't get carried away. There were more important things that needed to be taken care of. And Beau had a lot of responsibility as the alpha. "Beau," I breathed reluctantly. "I have to take a shower." My excuse was pitiful, but it was the first thing that came to mind. And it was also true. I honestly did need to take a shower. Considering last night I didn't get a chance to have a bath. My mate's eyes glinted wickedly, a look that I'd come to familiarize myself with. "So do I," he said in a voice that made the coincidence sound unexpected. Of course Beau would figure out a way to keep our intimacy going. Before I had the chance to protest, I was lifted into the air, my legs still wrapped around his waist. Beau stepped over the pile of clothes Wed tossed off last night and made his way over to the bathroom, carrying me as if I weighed as much as a feather. The shower was made of glass. My mate sandwiched me between the cool tile and his own body as he twisted the knobs. Steaming hot water shot out of the faucet, jolting my nerves and massaging out my knots. Smirking, I slid out from Beau's grasp and pumped shampoo out of a bottle, working it into my tangled hair. My back was to the alpha, and I knew that he was making that half upset, a half playful look that appeared when I slipped right out of his fingers. That predatory look that I'd learned to fear slightly and partially desire. I gasped as I was twirled around and jerked against a muscled body. The hot water flowed through my hair, washing the shampoo out, and cascaded down my back and over my shoulders to trickle down my chest. "Beau, we can't get carried away," I protested numbly. "You have things to take care of. A lot of responsibility is on you. Baby, just enjoy the moment. Xavier is taking care of everything. Today is for us, for you to relax." "Are you sure?" I breathed. "I'm positive. Everything is taken care of." "Then kiss me." "You idiot." His lips crashed down onto mine with enough pressure to make me stagger backwards, but I didn't. I remained firmly in place, anchored against him by our arms wrapped around each other. The water pounded against the both of us, and he sucked a droplet of water from my lips. I reached up and massaged the shampoo into his hair, finishing the job for him. Beau groaned and grasped my hips more tightly, before lathering body wash over my bare figure. an excuse to run his lusting fingers over every inch of me. The spicy soap blurred my senses, and I found myself getting caught up in the moment. The scent of his soap seemed to be soaked into his skin. It made me slightly giddy to know that the spice would be worked into my scent. God, you're so beautiful, he murmured between kisses. My fingers trailed down to his back, working the soap into his smooth, warm skin. Everything about Beau had become familiar to me, comforting. His deep voice, one that could melt me so easily, and seemed to caress my ears almost teasingly. His smooth skin, always so warm and beckoning, as if begging me to run my fingertips across it. His rough, calloused fingers that explored my body with the confidence of an alpha, the kind of confidence that was nowhere near arrogant, yet demanded attention. His dark, silky hair that my fingers itched to tangle and twist in, the way it fell lazily and effortlessly over his handsome face. His soft lips, how they seemed to be made just for mine. They were like two pieces of a puzzle moving in sync, molding together, sliding against the other. His intoxicating scent, the one of spice and warm earth. Beau slipped his tongue into my mouth, his hands gliding up and down my body. The water against my skin made it easier for his hands to move, sliding almost effortlessly over my nude body. I reached up and grabbed the shower head, rinsing off the soap suds, all the while keeping our lips locked. He took the shower head from me and let the water trickle down my body, gently, slowly, chasing away the soap. The water burned slightly, but the burn felt good. It reminded me of the burn that swept over my skin whenever my mate and I made contact, jolting me awake and leaving trails of fire. I reached over the side of the shower and snatched a fluffy white towel to wrap around myself. Beau did the same, tying it loosely around him. The towel hung low on his waist, his hip bones visible. I tied the towel around my chest, letting the edge of the fabric reach just below my bottom. Beau pulled away from our kiss long enough to sweep me up into his arms, holding me bridal style. He nudged the shower door open with his foot, and I let out a small gasp. The outside air was freezing cold compared to the steamy air inside the shower. My mate chuckled and held me closer to his chest, walking us over to his closet. My eyes widened and my jaw dropped when I saw that the closet had two parts. One side had Beau's clothes, and the other was stocked with women's clothes. All my size and style. Surprise, he grinned, pressing his lips to my cheek. I figured you pretty much live here already, so why not keep clothes for you here? How much did it cost? I breathed, taking in all of the clothes. Don't worry about that, remember? I'm heir to a billion-dollar company. I make billions per year. Money isn't a problem, he assured me, placing me down. Oh my God. I stood on my tiptoes and pressed my lips to his, wrapping my arms tightly around his neck. Beau's arms held me against him and his lips moved against mine. My body lit up with fireworks, something that happened every time we kissed or touched. His presence seemed to trigger the sparks. By the way, he mentioned between kisses, do you want to move in? My lips curved up against his. I'm always here. I don't think it would make much of a difference. I know, but just officially. Our kisses were getting sloppier as we struggled to talk at the same time, neither of us wanting to let go. Of course I do. Do you think your brother will be pissed? Most definitely. Lovely, he grumbled sarcastically. My towel fell to the ground, an action caused by Beau's wandering hands. I yelped and broke the kiss to snatch it up again and hold it against my chest. I know. It was silly. I was just completely exposed in the shower. Less that 5 minutes ago. But I get self-conscious if I'm the only one naked. Now isn't the best time to be modest. You've already alerted my friend downstairs, Beau said, rolling my eyes. I threw my towel at him. There. Happy. His eyes gleamed as they took me in. Very. Delighted. Actually. I smirked and rummaged through a few drawers, looking for a panty. Beau had only stocked lacy thongs with matching bras. I sighed and decided on a pair of dark blue lingerie. I tugged on the panty and clasped the bra, hearing Beau's groan. Can we stay here today? I turned to face my mate, who had pulled on a pair of gray boxers. Whatever you want. I pulled on a pair of black sweatpants that hugged my thighs and flared out over my feet. The waistband folded over and it hung low on my hips. Chewing my lip and looking through the racks of clothes, I decided on a light blue racerback tank top. It clung to my torso like a second skin. I knotted my wet hair loosely in a bun, a few strands escaping to frame my face. Beau had pulled on loose. Light gray sweatpants and a white wife beater that did nothing to conceal the definition of his chest or eight-pack. I found myself wondering how I ever got so lucky to have him as my mate. He wrapped his arms around me and ducked his head down to kiss every inch of my face, his lips lingering near my mouth. What are you thinking about? I don't know what I ever did to deserve you, I murmured. Maybe I was a saint in my past life. My mate looked incredulous. What you did to deserve me? Hell. I'm the one who should be wondering that. You deserve better than me, and I know it. I try to be the perfect guy for you, but I know that you deserve better. I've got to be the luckiest guy in existence to have you as my mate. You are the perfect guy, I whispered. Damn it. I love you. He kissed me. I'll never let go. Jack, I'll never let go. Silent tears trickled down my cheeks as I saw Jack float off the iceberg, slowly sinking down into the depths of the ocean. Rose, shivering and chattering, let out a sob before swimming over to the captain and blowing his whistle, attempting to get the attention of the rescue team. Oh my God, I cried. How could they let Jack die? Beau's eyes were glassy as they watched the scene before him. Damn it. I hate this movie. It makes me feel like crying. Why are we watching the Titanic? Why not Mission Impossible or something? I freaking love this movie. I sniffed, cuddling into Beau's side and wrapping my arms around his waist. You're bawling your eyes out, Beau observed. Because Jack just died. Crap. I hate the stupid director. How could he just let Jack die? He and Rose are supposed to survive the Titanic, have a lot of steamy make-out sessions, get married, have kids, grow old, have grandkids, have less steamy make-out sessions because that would be gross, then die holding hands or something. Is not supposed to die before her. Why couldn't they both fit on the fucking raft? I sobbed, shouting slightly at the screen. I don't get why it's so sad. Beau grumbled. My jaw dropped and I whirled around to face him. Look at it this way. What if it were you and me as Rose and Jack? Wait. No. 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 What if I were Jack and you were Rose? We made that promise to never let go and all that adorable shit. Then you look at me and I'm dead. I'm just a dead body floating in the icy cold water. Then you get all pissed at yourself because you promised that you'd survive so you can't die. But you still love me more than anything. That's what's so freaking sad. I sat cross-legged and reached over to grab the tub of chocolate ice cream, feeling Beau's eyes on me. The chocolate melted on my tongue and felt just right. Ice cream and the Titanic always paired together perfectly. God damn it. You're making me cry. Beau blinked his eyes furiously, looking away from me so I wouldn't see his involuntary tears. Can I take your name? Miss. Rose looked at the man. Dawson. Rose Dawson. More tears dripped down my cheeks and shoveled another scoop of chocolate ice cream into my mouth. I scooped up another spoonful and twisted to shove the delicious ice cream into Beau's mouth. His eyes lit up when the chocolate hit his tongue, and he took the spoon from me, eating more and more ice cream. Wait, did they get married? I don't remember them getting married. Beau paused to glance at the television. That's what makes it so adorable. I wiped the tears out of my eyes. I still don't get it. He took another bite. Okay. So after I died and all that horrible, heartbreaking, awful, unnecessary stuff, you got saved and you were hauled back to the savior ship. There's a guy walking around, taking people's names to see who survived. Remember in this story, I'm you and you're me. So the guy comes up to you and says, "What's your name?" "Miss." And you respond, "My name is Amabelle Chandler." It's so sad. She probably would have been Rose Dawson if the stupid director hadn't killed off Jack. I was frowning by the end of my rant. Beau looked thoughtful. For what reason? I had no idea. His gaze was on me, as if contemplating something important. Something ginormous, raising an eyebrow at him. I turned back to the television screen. It was focused on the old Rose, as she died in her sleep. The pictures of her on the horse and at a carnival were shown, making my tears fall more steadily. I lost it when she died. It showed her walking through the Titanic again. Jack waiting for her at the top of the stairs. She was young again, and she and Jack looked just as in love as they had been so many decades ago. I gasped for breath, sobbing relentlessly and wiping away my tears. "That's so happy," I blubbered. "Still don't get it. She died and was reunited with him." I burst. "I thought she got remarried." "She did." "Then what about her husband?" He questioned. "She never loved him." I sniffed. "That was just to carry on the name Dawson or something. Rose has always loved Jack more than anything. She has a grandkid. So when she and her husband were having sex or whatever, she was pretending he was Jack. Or she just didn't care and wished he were Jack. That is some messed up shit." Beau frowned. "Don't ruin the movie for me." I snatched the tub of ice cream back as well as the spoon. "This movie makes me wish I were Rose." "Hey. But then you'd be with Jack." Beau burst angrily. "Don't be a douche." I gave him a peck on the lips. "Obviously you would be Jack." "That sounds much better." "Do you think it's better in a car or in a bed?" "The shower is okay. But soap gets in your eyes." "Can we try?" Beau started. "No. We are not making love in a car," I said firmly. "But they make it look all cool. The glass is all steamy and they're both panting and whatnot." "Please." My mate rewinded to try and get back to the scene. I grabbed the remote. "Well, in case you don't remember. You only have a motorcycle. You have a truck." "I share the truck with my family," I argued. "I don't want them to know we banged in their truck." Beau nodded. "Yeah. Your brother hates me enough. He doesn't hate you." "Oh, really?" "He's just really protective of me." I shrugged, yawning. I put the empty tub of ice cream on the table and stretched. Beau pulled me against him on the couch so we were spooned together, nibbling the back of my neck. His hot breath sent tingles down my spine, making me shudder. I reached over and pulled the soft, white Afghan over us. I snuggled against his hard chest and sighed, satisfied. His arms snaked around me and warm fingers brushed a sliver of skin beneath the hem of my tank top. "Jack and Rose kind of reminds me of the two of us," I murmured. "Why?" "I don't know. We're in love. We're young. We'd do anything for each other. You know it'd go to hell and back for you." He breathed. "I love you. I love you too," Beau muttered before I drifted off into a pleasant sleep. "Sir, we have something. It'll be there in a few minutes." Beau clicked the phone off and reached over me to place it on the table. I heard him exhale and press his lips to my shoulder before sitting up. I opened my eyes to see him running his fingers through his hair. A small smile slid onto his face when he saw that I was awake. "Where are you going?" I murmured. "The pack found a non-pack member on our territory. I'm going to question him now," he explained. "You mean we're going to question him now?" I sat up and pulled the hem of my tank top down. It had edged up to right below my navel while we were sleeping. Baby, I don't know if that's a good idea. Beau avoided my eyes. Why? I challenged. I'm different when I question people. He rubbed his face. I don't want you to be scared of me. I think I've seen your worst, I said dryly, remembering the night before. Besides, it'd just follow you once you left the house. Beau groaned and searched my face, trying to tell if I was bluffing or not. You're so stubborn. He leaned forward and pressed his lips to mine, telling me that I could come. I smiled and kissed him back, breaking our kiss before we both got caught in that daze and lost track of time, something that seemed to be happening more often. We should probably change too, Beau whispered. I don't want anyone else seeing you in a tank top. Laughing, I shoved him away and climbed off of his lap. You're ridiculous. I ruffled his hair and flit up the stairs, hearing his footsteps behind me. Right as I walked through the walk-in closet, 2 arms wrapped around my waist and pulled my shirt off. So I turned and did the same to him, grinning seductively. I twisted his shirt into a rope-like shape and held both ends, wrapping it around his neck, pulling it toward me. Beau's head was tugged toward my face. I pressed my lips to his, dropping the shirt and resting my hands on his chest instead. He grinned against my lips and brushed his fingers against the small of my back, tracing small circles. Beau slid his tongue along my bottom lip, opening my mouth underneath his, and ran his tongue along the inside of my teeth. Reluctantly, I pulled away, letting my tongue dart along his bottom lip for a split second. We should probably get dressed now. Probably. Beau sighed and let go of me, letting his hands linger at my waist. I pulled on a pair of dark skinny jeans, a white tank top, and a purple blazer with long sleeves. I tied my tangled hair up in a sloppy bun, not bothering to make it look very nice, and slipped my feet into light gray Toms. Beau was wearing the usual uniform jeans, a t-shirt, and black boots. Come on. Beau took my hand in his and kissed my temple, letting his lips linger. Hey, Belle. Xavier flung his arm around my shoulder, ignoring the glare he got from Beau. Hi, Exev. I smiled warmly. Yeah. Hello. Beau shoved Xavier's arm off of me and replaced it with his arm, pulling me closer to his side. I rolled my eyes, but hung my arm loosely around his waist. Xavier just chuckled to himself and walked with us to the small concrete bunker. Both Beau and I raised our eyebrows at him, wondering what was so funny. You are so whipped. Man. He smirked at Beau. This time Beau rolled his eyes and simply hung his thumb in one of the belt loops on my jeans, lazily keeping his arm around me. I smiled smugly when he didn't deny Xavier's accusation. When the scent of the wolf inside hit me, I staggered back and froze. My eyes widened and the pain in my chest started up again. My heart pounded and my ears rung it couldn't be him. Small pants escaped my lips and I could see Beau's worried face, see his mouth moving, his frantic eyes. But I couldn't hear a word my mate was saying. Was this shock? Tingles sprinted down my spine and I felt myself begin to tremble. I couldn't hear anything. My eyesight blurred slightly. The chocolate ice cream that Beau and I had eaten was threatening to make an appearance. Muscular arms wrapped around me and I whimpered, imagining that it was his arms, that he was coming to take me away. Amabelle? Baby. Listen to me. Calm down. You're safe. I've got you. Beau's soothing voice calmed me. I wrapped my arms around his neck, burying my face in his chest. I could hear my mate's leaping heartbeat as he tried to soothe me. Xavier. What the fuck is going on? Beau's voice was a growl when talking to anyone but me. How should I know? She's your mate. Don't test my patience. Beau's voice was hard. Man. I'm going to wait inside. Take care of her and you guys can come inside when she's all better. I heard a low sigh. I'm sorry. Zav. Thanks. Don't worry, she's your mate. I understand. A few minutes passed before I felt Beau start walking, heading into the forest. Twigs snapped and bushes rustled, informing me that he was moving. In about 10 minutes, Beau sat down, bringing me into his lap. I rested my head on his chest, keeping my arms tightly around him, as he stroked my cheek and tucked a lock of hair behind my ear. The familiar pattern and callus of his fingertips slowed my heartbeat, calming me. What happened back there? He murmured. I could detect the worry in his voice. It's him. Beau. Hez here. I breathed, cuddling closer to him. A low growl ripped from his chest and I saw his jaw clench. My mate's muscles rippled, showing just how furious he was. Beau's arms tightened around my waist and he held me closer to him as if making sure I wasn't torn away from him. I'm going to kill him. His voice was cold. I tilted my head up to look at him, stroking my thumb across his jaw. There's no way I'm letting him get away. Letting you live in fear of him. He needs to die. Beau's voice was firm and hard. Don't you at least want to find out why he's here? I muttered. He groaned and buried his head in the crook of my neck, taking a whiff of my scent to calm himself down. I felt his lips curve up against my skin. What? I wondered. I can smell myself on you. Beau's voice was soft and filled with pride. My lips immediately curved up too. I loved it when Beau was gentle like this. It was like he was giving himself the part of him that was reserved for me. And only me. The fact that nobody else would see this soft side of Beau made my heart skip a beat and my lips stay curved. Can I come with you? I asked. If he lays a finger on you. I swear, don't worry. Mr. Alpha. I think I can take care of myself. I grinned and kissed him on the cheek. Those eyes. Those bloodshot, raw red eyes that haunted my dreams. That sinister grin that jerked me awake. Screaming. My breath caught as the nightmares flooded back. As memories from that night entered my mind, I knew that Beau was sifting through my thoughts, getting more and more angry as he saw my nightmares and my memories. I gulped, now looking into those eyes again. Amabelle Murdock. His baritone voice sent shivers down my spine, not good ones like Beau's voice did, but frightened, frozen ones. Don't even say her name. Beau spat. Why not? She'll be mine soon. I hated how calm he was, how those haunting eyes seemed so sure of themselves. At that, Beau growled and lunged for the Alpha. Instantly. 2 men came and held him back, grabbing his arms and keeping him away from the Alpha. 2 men weren't enough for Beau's strength. He brushed them off as if they were flies. Eventually, it took 8 werewolves to keep Beau away from the smug-looking Alpha. Beau closed his eyes and opened them a minute later. Let go of me, I'm fine. His voice was hard, yet firm. The pack members let go, and Beau straightened himself out, strutting toward the Spruce Alpha. His jaw was clenched, and I could see his muscles rippling. Werewolf claws were growing from his fingers, then retracting back into his nail as he stepped closer to the Spruce Alpha. What are you doing here? His voice was quiet and cold, even more frightening than when he was shouting. I've come for my mate. The Spruce Alpha's eyes darted to me, raking over my body. And I'm glad that I have. Growls erupted from Beau, and the pack members in the room tensed, ready to hold back their Alpha as soon as he lunged. She's mine. You dick. I made a deal with her father. The Spruce Alpha hissed, breaking his mask of calm. I've already claimed and marked her. The Spruce Alpha lifted his nose, taking a whiff of the air, and his eyes narrowed as they landed on me. He could smell Beau's scent mixed with mine, and could probably smell me on Beau. I gasped when he tried to leap out of his chair and launch himself on my mate. Beau brought his fist back and a crunch sounded as his knuckles collided with the Spruce Alpha's nose. I winced at the sound and watched as dark blood dripped from the Spruce Alpha's nose. It splotched on the floor, and on his chest his nose was at an odd angle. "You're delusional. You know that." Beau spat on the other Alpha. "You couldn't love someone. You don't love Belle, I do. You can't force her to do something she doesn't want." Beau's voice was barely audible as he murmured in the Alpha's ear. "Love or lust? Young Alpha, there's a difference. Lust can be felt for someone you love. Which feeling overpowers? What do you think?" Beau asked dryly. "Lust." The Spruce Alpha had a clenched jaw. "Well, you're wrong. Now tell me, what does Amabelle feel for you? Lust or love? Which overpowers?" "Love," I murmured, knowing that they could hear me. "You're both foolish," he hissed. "Love doesn't exist. Once upon a time, I'd been positive of that. Now that I'd met Beau, I knew for sure that love existed. If Beau were to die, I'd die too. Maybe it wouldn't be willingly, but I'd eventually die from the emotional strain. If he stopped loving me, I'd die too. I'll never stop loving you." Beau spoke to me through the mate bond. A small smile slipped onto my face, making the Spruce Alpha snarl at Beau. I smirked at him, knowing that there was absolutely no way in hell I'd let him have me. I honestly would commit suicide rather than letting him claim me. Beau was the only one for me. "I'll kill him tomorrow morning," Beau told the pack members who were currently guarding the concrete bunker. "Yes, sir." "Come on. You can't be serious." Beau groaned. "I'm making a point." I grinned. "This isn't necessary." He pouted. I shrugged and reached up to grab the bag of Doritos from a cabinet. Beau's eyes were on me, displaying an intense amount of desire, battling with control. His job was to stay seated on the couch while I went about doing everyday things in the couch. Did I mention I was only wearing a pair of lacy black lingerie? Pretending Beau wasn't there, I went about my regular evening schedule. I lay on the island on my stomach, lazily kicking my legs back and forth, flipping through magazines and munching on Doritos. I could feel his eyes glued to me as I slid off the counter and reached up to put the chips away. Low growls were audible from where I was standing. I laughed silently to myself and moved on to eat one of the cupcakes that Beau and I had bought on our way home. It was chocolate, my favorite. I leaned against the counter, facing Beau, and proceeded to eat the cupcake. I knew that frosting was smeared on my lips and also that Beau's grip was molding into the armrest. As I ran my tongue along my upper lip, Beau was out of his seat. A black blur had me pinned to the wall and I smirked up at him. He leaned his head down and slowly glided his tongue along my bottom lip, savoring the chocolate frosting. "That's the best frosting I've ever had," he whispered huskily. "You lasted for 3 minutes and 21 seconds, I murmured teasingly. "I never said how much of me was driven by lust for you. Just that the love was greater," he defended. Unashamed hands raced down my sides and tugged at my waistband. "By the way, you made me drop my cupcake," I said accusingly. Suddenly Beau's eyes lit up, filled with a wicked spark. I raised one eyebrow questioningly. "Your turn," he murmured with a deep voice. "Fine." I agreed. Lifting my chin, I lowered myself onto the couch and watched as Beau smirked at me. "I'll be right back," he said, taking the steps 2 at a time. A few minutes later, Beau came into view again and I crossed my arms across my chest, biting down on my bottom lip to keep them from parting. His bronze skin was covered with beads of water and he had only a pair of dark levis on, hanging low on his hips. I did my very best to keep my eyes off his defined 8-pack. A small gasp left my lips as Beau picked me up and pinned me to the wall. Those stormy gray eyes were twinkling and a dirty grin was spread across his handsome face, making my breath catch. "This is against the rules," I murmured, You said that the rules were just that you had to keep from giving in to the other. If you don't give in to me, you'll win. His eyes challenged me. But, no buts. You already agreed. Now get ready to lose. I was about to protest, but a thumb was brushed across my lips, slowly making its way to my jaw, trailing up to cut my face. I bit down on my lower lip, not wanting to part my mouth. Beau Jr. was making himself known as I was pushed harder against the wall. My mate's hands flanked my head as he leaned against the wall, brushing those soft lips against my throat. This isn't fair. I breathed, clenching my hands into fists in order to keep them from wrapping around Beau's neck, tangling in his hair, and pulling his head down to meet my lips. Wearing black lace isn't fair. How long has it been? 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Just 10 more seconds. I could handle that. Or so I thought. Beau twined his fingers with mine, then ran my knuckles along his 8-pack, then over his hip bones, brushing the waistband of his jeans. Then his fingers roamed my body, gliding over my skin. Once his hands trailed up my legs and he kissed up my shoulder. I couldn't take it anymore. I hate you so much, I muttered, reaching up, tangling my fingers in his hair, then pulling his head down to mine. You guys, I think this is the dress, I squealed happily, beaming at my reflection. This was the 32nd dress I've tried on today, and I was positive that this was the perfect wedding dress. Kat and Daff have been waiting faithfully in the lounge we rented at the most expensive wedding store in Seattle, offering up their opinions and helping me choose dresses to try on. Seriously. Get out here. Belle. We have to see it. Daff sounded even more excited than I did. I bit my bottom lip to keep from smiling too much and flicked open the door, raising my eyebrows questioningly at the girls. Both their jaws were dropped and tears pooled in Daff's eyes. Kat was gazing at me in awe, her hands clasped. Belle. You look. Daff choked out, tears streaming down her face. Beautiful. Kat finished her sentence and her eyes got watery. I turned and looked at my reflection again. The dress was white and the bodice was lined with gleaming pearls. It had straps that were intricately weaved with lace to look like leaves with beads of dew, and they clung to my arms, ending at my wrist. The neckline showed my chest, but no cleavage. It had to be modest considering I was now a mother as well as the Thunderpack's Luna. The skirt flowed out and there were so many layers that it puffed out and flowed delicately down to my feet. This is definitely the dress, I agreed. When we get home, we have to hide the dress from Beau, Daff said, grinning. Are you okay? Kat. She still hadn't stopped crying, and I had a feeling that she wasn't crying over how perfect the dress was. Yeah, she sniffed, furiously wiping the tears off her cheeks. No, you're not. I sat next to her and put my arms around my best friend. Tell me what's wrong. I don't want you to get mad at him, she whispered, her hazel eyes meeting mine. Kat. Tell me. I spoke gently. Our Red is my mate. She choked out. That's great. Why would I be mad at him? I was puzzled now. He doesn't want to be with me. She was sobbing now. What? Me and Daff both jerked up with murderous looks on our faces. We both felt protective over the younger girl. He said he was too old for me. She struggled to talk normally. When? I demanded. Last night. Her voice was a whisper. Tell us everything. Daff took a seat on the other side of Kat. Yesterday I was looking for Belle and I asked Rhett where you were. We both realized that we were mates and he asked me out on a date, so of course I said yes. Kat wiped tears off her high cheekbones. He took me out for a picnic and we were playing the 20 questions game. He found out that I was 16 and he sort of freaked. He said that he was too old for me and that we had to wait until I was 18 to be together. By the end of her explanation, tears were streaming down her face again. Daff and I shared a pained look. We knew why Rhett had told Kat to wait. She was young and didn't really have the same intimate urges as a fully developed werewolf. She wouldn't understand why Rhett would get furious or suddenly very protective and lusting either. But we weren't on Rhett's side. He couldn't just reject Kat, they were mates. She was the one girl made just for him, and he was the one guy made for her. Well, talk to him. Kat. I smiled reassuringly at my best friend. More like murder him. Daff muttered under her breath. Gotta hide his body in Beau's dumpster. Please don't be mad at him. I could tell how in love Kat was, and it broke my heart. Yeah. Nobody ever checks the Alpha's dumpster. Daff had a creepy expression on her face. Daff, you're a 22-year-old girl. Not a psychopath. I informed my older sister. She mumbled something unintelligible to herself and pulled her phone out. Dialing somebody. Kat and I shared a confused look and waited to see who she was calling. Both of us curious. Hey, babe. Oh, it was Av. I have an itty-bitty favor to ask of you. She waited a few seconds and I could hear Zav's voice on the other side, but couldn't understand what he was saying. Yes. I'll pay you back tonight. She purred Kat and I shared an amused look. Okay. Deal. Can you tie my dear younger brother up and chain him to a chair in the dining room? Please. I'd like to have a word with him when I get home. I could make out a few words on the other side. Mainly crazy and how much Rhett would hate him. Please. Zav. I'll owe you forever. A small smile slid onto her face at Zav's response. Thanks, love crumpet. I'll be home soon. Love you. She and Zav fought over who loved each other more while Kat and I paid for the dress, and I changed back into my jeans and blouse. Kat had a sad and almost envious look on her face when she was watching and listening to Daff and Zav's conversation. It broke my heart to see the younger girl so sad. And even more upset that my brother was the one who was causing her sadness. I engulfed her in a hug. Don't worry. Kat. Everything will work out. I promise. I assured her. Thanks. Belle. She held on to me tightly. Kat giggled and looped her arm through mine. As we followed Daff out the door, she had the dress bag in one hand and her phone in the other. She and Zav still hadn't hung up. They're ridiculous. I muttered to Kat as we listened to Daff and Zav's phone conversation. Daff was currently proving why she loved him more. Watch this. I grabbed Daff's phone from her hand. Bye, Xav. Daff will have to call you later. Tell her that I win. Belle. He told me. I could hear Beau's voice in the background. You were arguing with Belle. I thought you were arguing with Daff. He sounded pissed. I was arguing with Daff. Zav shouted back. You just said Belle? I couldn't help but laugh. Zav. I tell Beau that I love him and that we're on our way home. Oh, and tell Rhett that Beau just sharpened our kitchen knives last night. I plan on using them. With that, I pressed the end call button and handed the phone to a pouting Daff. I climbed into the truck beside Kat. The three of us sat on the bench that took up the covered part of the car. Daff drove. Kat sat in the middle. And I was on the passenger side. Everett Murdock. I hollered as I opened the front door. Hey, love crumpet. Daff and Zav started their makeout session and Beau rolled his eyes, pushing the two of them into the kitchen and closing the door behind them. I told you not to call me that. I could hear Zav's voice from the kitchen. Rhett's in the living room. Beau kissed my forehead. He had Adrian and Diesel in his arms and Lily in a baby carrier that was strapped to his chest. I giggled at him. He looked nothing like how you'd picture the ruthless Thunder Alpha. This was the adorable part of him that emerged once in a while. He scowled when he saw me giggling at him, and I pecked him on the lips. I'll be right back. I have to murder my brother. Why? Beau raised his eyebrows. Wait. Never mind. You shout loud enough, I'll probably be able to figure it out. Crap. Daff and Xav are in the kitchen, that's where the knives are. I frowned. Baby. He's your brother. Beau was giving me a worried look. Aren't you supposed to act like this when you're pregnant? Not after you give birth. I'm not insane. Beau. I didn't say you were. You implied it. I love you. I rolled my eyes and walked into the living room, glaring at my confused brother. He was laying on the couch, watching football. He did a double take when he saw my furious expression, then realization dawned on him and he groaned, rubbing his face. I can't believe you. I screamed. You know I had to. Belle. She's 16. He shouted back. She's your mate. We're 4 years apart. Belle. So are Daff and Zav. She's not a fully developed wolf yet. So you practically reject her. I yelled. I did not reject her. I would never reject her. Now he was glowering too. So what would you call that? Temporary rejection. His face became pained and we both sunk down onto the couch next to each other. My throat was throbbing from screaming so loudly, and I could tell that Rhett's was too. Belle. You don't understand how hard it is. He muttered to me. My wolf goes insane around her and she wouldn't understand why. Until she turned 18. I would have to use every ounce of my control and even that wouldn't be enough. I can't claim her until she's 18 and I don't plan on claiming her until then. My wolf wouldn't give me that decision if I stayed around her all the time. I'd rather be in pain than forcing her to be claimed. Rhett. She's in pain too. I looked up at my brother. Can't you at least try? I don't know. He whispered. He had bags under his eyes, and only then did I realize that this was probably even harder for him. Do you love her? What kind of a question is that? He laughed humorlessly. Of course I do more than anything. More than myself. That's why I'm forcing myself to stay away from her. When I claim her, I don't want it to be forced or because my wolf took over. Both of us stayed silent for a little while, lost in our thoughts. I could feel Beau's frustration. It was hard for him to control himself when another wolf was yelling at me, especially a male wolf. I knew that Kat was probably experiencing the same thing, but on a lower level and for Rhett. Please just do something. Rhett. She's heartbroken and doesn't understand why you guys can't be together. The wolves that kept her prisoner didn't teach her about the claiming. I murmured. Damn, I want to kill them. He groaned. Again. I probably did kill them. But I want it to be even more painful. I ruffled my brother's hair and stood up. Don't break her heart. Rhett. I don't know what Kat and Rhett are going to do. I lay in Beau's arms wed, just put the triplets to bed. They'll figure something out. Beau brushed his fingers up and down my back. Eventually they won't be able to stay away from each other. I grinned under the accusing look. Beau shot me. You were so lucky that my family was in Vegas that weekend. He chuckled and ducked down to kiss me. Did you know I've broken out of silver chains twice to get to you? Twice. I raised my eyebrows. I didn't know you broke out of them once. My pack had to chain me up in my room to make sure I didn't go to you when you were being stubborn that one week. The second time was when Zav told me that you'd been kidnapped by the Spruce Alpha. I am not stubborn. I pouted. Beau started laughing. You. Not stubborn. Baby. You're the most stubborn person I know. I'm not stubborn, though. I frowned at his amused face. Don't worry. I think it's cute. His lips captured mine in a kiss. Our lips moved in sync, and I reached up to tangle my fingers in his hair. He pulled me closer and planted kisses down my jaw. I knew he was kissing my jaw so I could breathe, but it made me ever more breathless. Beau fingered the hem of my tank top, and just as he was about to pull it up, our baby monitor informed us that one of the triplets was bawling their eyes out. Within seconds, all 3 triplets were screaming and crying. I groaned and climbed out from underneath a grumbling Beau. We can continue later. I pulled him in for a quick kiss before heading down the hall to the triplets' room. I can't do this. I was hyperventilating now. Belle. Calm down. Daff spoke with a soothing voice. You'll do fine. You can't walk out on Beau, he's waiting for you. I gulped and focused on my reflection. Not what was happening in less than 10 minutes. My dark hair was up in an intricate bun, and a few strands were curled and framing my face. My lips were glossed, and my eyes had a bit of eyeliner to intensify them. I was wearing the dress that Daff, Cat, and I had bought. Around my neck was a gleaming pearl necklace. A shimmery white veil cascaded delicately down my back. I don't think I've looked more beautiful in my entire life. I'm so nervous. Daff. Just think of Beau. In a few hours, the two of you can go home and spend the rest of your lives with each other and the triplets. How many people are there? Daff. I invited. She lowered her voice so it was barely audible to a werewolf ear. 800. 800. Do we even know 800 people? My jaw dropped. Belle. Calm down. You'll be fine. Daff straightened out my dress. Oh my God. I breathed, putting my hand over my heart. 800 people. Belle. I heard my grandmother gasp from behind me. Sweetheart. You look so beautiful. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she cupped my face in her hands and kissed my forehead. She was holding Lily. My grandfather was standing behind her, his eyes were watery. Yet there was a large smile on his face. He was looking sharp in a gray suit. Since my parents were dead, my grandfather was filling in for my father, walking me down the aisle. Princess, I've always dreamed of this day. My grandfather sighed. And now that it's finally happening, I can't believe that I have to say bye to my little princess. I'll always be your little princess. Grandfather. I hugged him. Belle. Careful. Your dress is going to wrinkle. Daff yelped. Grandfather chuckled and held out his arm for me. I took it and picked up my bouquet of snow-white flowers. Daff picked up her bouquet, and she and Kat walked down the aisle on Rhett and Zav's arms. They were the brides, maids, and groomsmen. Taking a deep breath, I attempted and failed to calm my pounding heart. I'd dreamt of marrying Beau, but in my dreams I wasn't as nervous as this. I held my grandfather's arm tightly and let him lead me down the aisle. My hands were shaking, and I struggled to remain calm. White rose petals were scattered on the floor, and an archway decorated with flowers awaited me. Below the archway was my dark god, looking more godly than ever. He was wearing a black tuxedo and a black tie. His ebony hair had been trimmed. It was most likely Daff's idea, and his stubble was gone. The one thing that kept me walking, kept me conscious instead of fainting from anxiety, was him. The way his stormy eyes were watching me, shining with happiness. He was beaming. The cheeky smile I loved was spread across his face. I barely noticed when my grandfather handed me off to Beau. All I could see was him. The priest's voice wasn't audible. Beau was my entire focus. I do, I heard him say. And do you, Amabelle Beatrice Murdock, take Beau Chandler as your lawfully wedded husband? Do you swear to be true to him through good times and bad? Through sickness and health? Do you promise to love and honor him through the rest of your days? I came crashing down from cloud 9 to respond. I do. And I had never been more certain in my entire life. The next thing I knew, Beau's lips were on mine. It was like every other kiss we'd shared. But I could feel our werewolf mate bond strengthen as Beau's alpha power sealed it. Much too soon. Beau pulled away and took my hand, slipping a gleaming ring on it, then started leading me back down the aisle. I could see people clapping and cheering, but I was only focused on the sound of my heartbeat and my hand. The hand that Beau held so tightly and surely. Everett's point of view. I watched Kat from my table. She was stunning in a pale pink dress. The bodice hugged her figure perfectly. accentuating her curves, and the skirt danced around her feet gracefully. I wanted to run my hands through her golden locks. Every single part of me was itching to run to her, to hold her in my arms and call her mine, then kiss her, to apologize for being such a jerk and to take back everything I said to her. But I couldn't. It would be so wrong for a 16-year-old girl to have a romantic relationship with a 20-year-old man. She wasn't even legal yet. Apparently, my wolf thought differently.